Good morning and welcome to the 41st episode, ooh, how you like that, of Girlfriends Knitting. And I'm probably going to call this all about the toes because I have been knitting socks, and lots of toes, of course. Each sock has a toe. So, I am Carolyn. I go by Caw Shirley on Plurk and Ravelry. And this will be a very sniffly episode because it seems as though anytime I travel, I come back and have a really bad allergy attack. So I think differences in climate and anyway, I'm very sniffly today. So I'm not sick, I'm just, ugh. So I will try not to sneeze or sniff or be gross during this episode, which sometimes it's hard for me not to be gross when my allergies are acting up like they are. Well, let's jump into some updates. I have been traveling this week for work, so I've been gone 5 of the 7 days this week, but I'd had a really good time. The conference was great. My boss and I did great in our presentation, in our humble opinions, and the opinions of a few of the people who watch the presentation. So I was very thrilled with that. Because the conference was in Dallas, I was able to visit with my parents and my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and nephews and had a great time with them. Dad is doing really, really well. All the IVs, everything is out, no tubes anywhere right now. And he's always loved working out, and so being in rehab and being able to work out, even though he doesn't have the strength back that he used to have, he's able to do stuff that he enjoys now because he's able to actually get in the gym and do some things, and so that's very, very good for him mentally. So I think he is progressing wonderfully. I'm so excited to see him and see how well he is doing. Thank you all again so much for all your prayers and support for my family during this time. We all really, really appreciate it. I also was thrilled this week to see RAP continue, Random Acts of Pattern, and that's in Carrie's memory, and it just still does my heart good because I still miss her and will for a long time, and so that it just makes me very happy. And I sent out a few more because, again, it just is very important to me to buy several of these 4 good hat patterns. And so I sent out a few more this week and was rewarded, karma, with a lovely pattern, the Pine Hill Scarf pattern, designed by Natalie Ford and gifted to me by Natalie Ford. And being that I have been traveling, I have not had a chance to print it out yet. So go check that out on the Ravelry pages. I have not had a lot of knitting time because most of the traveling involved me driving. So 8-hour drive to Dallas and back, 3-hour drive to Jackson, Mississippi and back. So it's not even just been one trip. I had meetings in Jackson that I had to go to as soon as I got back from Dallas. So lots of traveling, lots of meetings. The meetings that I've been in are not you can knit during them kind of meetings. So basically, not a whole lot of knitting has taken place because, again, I've been busy with driving. You knit, you drive. I wish there's a way you can knit while you drive. That would be awesome, but very, very dangerous. So we'll have to scrap that. But if they ever get to where cars are like self-driven, you can put them on autopilot like you could an airplane. Awesome. I'll pay attention to what's going on. I'll bring stocking knit. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Cold medicine. Allergy medicine, actually, not cold medicine. So let me show you a few of the things that I've been working on in the few hours at home when I'm not passed out from exhaustion. I showed you last week that I was almost finished with Jilly's pink sugar plum socks. Basically, I had finished them and then decided I didn't like the cuff of one of them, so I ripped it out, re-knit that. I actually finished it before the episode was even uploaded by Blip. So those have been done. So I'm not really counting them as an FO this week because they were kind of an FO last week. But look how adorable! So when my mother and sister-in-law saw the socks I was knitting for Jilly, they both said, oh, your niece needs those. And she's 2. Well, she'll be 2 this week, as a matter of fact. So look how cute! So those will come up all her little leg. They're exactly like Jilly's. So the purple toe and heel, and then snowflake lace in purple for the cuff, and then pink sugar striped yarn for the main part of the foot and the leg. And the pink sugar is just Serenity sock. And then the purple is Bamboo and You. And I don't have the tag for it handy. And I knit these on my Knit Picks US 1.5. And I like doing 2 circulars toe up for knitting. And through my extensive sock knitting research, I have discovered that more often than not, if you ask someone, what's your favorite way to knit socks? And then you follow that question up by asking, what was the first sock you learned how to knit? What was the first method? Typically those are the same answer. So I don't know if you sort of get partial to the way you learned, but I first learned how to knit socks toe up on 2 circulars. That's how Laura taught me, and I loved it. I have knit them in many different ways. Magic loop, double point, toe up, cuff down, and I just still always go back to toe up with 2 circs. So I think that may, again, just be you get partial to the way you learned. I don't know. Chime in on that. Let's find out. I wonder if all the vote, if we found out any info about that. Speaking of, more socks. So those are for my niece. And these are falling off the needle because I just was bad and I just chunked them in the bag instead of being careful with them. And I have done so much. Can you hear the sarcasm? So much. A toe. And it is in this gorgeous gray yarn. Let me show you the yarn. The colorway is actually called London Fog, and I showed you this last week. It's in the Bond Fiber Show Me Sock London Fog fingering weight. And so I'm calling it my 50 Shades of Grey socks. They're not for me, they're for my sister-in-law. She'll think it's hilarious that I call them that. So they are going to be, right now I just have the toe that I'm working on. I haven't even gotten the first sock finished. But they are going to be these faux cabled socks out of this little book I picked up, Terrific Toe Up Socks, Knit to Fit, by Janet Reifelt. And if everything's backwards, I apologize. I thought I had clicked the auto flip, and it may flip it after I process this, but if it doesn't, I just am going to say I'm sorry and just let it go. But again, this is just a little book I picked up, retails for $14.99 US. And what I like about the book is that there are lots of instructions about sock knitting. So, anatomy of a sock, choosing size, different ways to knit, different cast-ons, working the toe and foot, how much to increase, different ways to work heels. One of the questions in our group was about short row heels. It talks a lot about short row heels and ways to kind of tighten those up. It also talks about if you wanted to do gussets instead. So it goes through 28 pages of just instruction on general sock knitting before it gets into the actual socks itself. And it has a lot of different variation in the socks. So the boyfriend, basic rib sock. So just very simple. The one that I'm doing, the faux cable sock, it's got some kind of funky socks they call Marl Zigzag. Not my favorite, but you know. Tide pools, I think these are pretty. I don't know if I like the yarn more or the lace more. I may like the yarn more actually than the pattern itself. Easily Spectacular. It's a basket weave sort of sock. And again, so that would be a very simple, first sock pattern kind of a sock. Then I love these. I've knit these before. You may have seen on the podcast before some yoga socks. They call them spa socks. Some with the heel and some without. And then she goes a little bit more so some color work. So you have Mardi Gras, being from South Louisiana, may have to knit me some Mardi Gras socks. And then there are some I'm not showing you, by the way. Some more color work. So these are called Winterscape. So just a few little things there for y'all to think about. So again, this book may be flipped wrong when you see it. Hopefully it'll have auto-corrected, but terrific toe-up socks. So that is my current on the needles project that I'm going to be spending the majority of my time on. I need to get my little frog finished because that needs to be finished by Sunday, like in order to put it on for SSK and get my raffle tickets for SSK. I'm just tired. And so maybe I will liven up this weekend and get my frog finished. That's the frog and turtle reversible pattern. I didn't even bring it with me today because it looks no different than the last time you saw it. By Susan B. Anderson. So that needs to get off the needles ASAP. Then the last thing that actually did see the light of day this week, something y'all have not seen in a while, but it's been around, is Mom, close your eyes for like 2 minutes. You can listen, you just can't look. I'm sorry. I didn't finish the row. I just stuck it in the bag mid-row, which, by the way, is what I love about knitting. If you want to stop, you can just stop. You don't have to clean up afterward. You don't have to, you just can just put it down. So this is the Spectra Scarf by Stephen West. And I love how this is doing. So it's the Amazing Yarn by Lion Brand in the middle. It's a very woolly yarn that sort of changes colors, which is what you want for the middle. And then on the outside, I believe I bought Barocco Vintage, but right now I don't have the tag. But it's in, ooh, see, that's the closest that it's been to the actual color, because it's sort of a gray blue. Got a little bit of green in it too. The green's not showing up as much on camera as in real life. And again, I have several more balls of this because you have to do quite a few of these little wedges. So this is what I'm going to be working on this weekend as well, trying to get some of the holiday knitting wrapped up. I'm doing pretty good. I do think I overextended myself, so there may be some people who are told what I'm going to knit for them. I know Amy in particular is getting hanks of yarn instead of actual knitted items. My nephews are not getting knitted gifts this year. They are actually getting store-bought gifts because I have so many other knitting projects on the needles. But that was planned from the beginning. So I did try to limit myself. I just don't think I limited myself quite enough. So that's what's going on knitting wise. I do want to kind of continue the whole give you some info to learn kind of segment. And so this week, I thought I would talk about toes. Did that surprise you at all? Probably not. Okay, so when you are knitting, in particular, a toe-up sock, typically you cast on 10 to 16, depending on how wide you want this part of the toe. And again, that's a number you can just pick. You can just pick that number just out of the air, okay? Because it's just going to give you this width. I typically cast on 16 and then increase to 32 per needle, so that you're casting on 32 all the way around and increasing to 64. That's my typical. But you can, again, pick those numbers to be whatever you want. So sort of in designing, you can pick that number to be whatever you want in your own design. What's going to happen is it's going to change the size of that front part of the toe. In addition, you can increase only on one side. So you can change the shape of the toe. Typically, in most sock patterns, you'll see that you're increasing both sides evenly every other row. But you don't have to. You can only increase on one side so that it's going to go up this way, but sort of straight that way. Or another toe that I have seen in some patterns is you'll increase more on one side than the other. So because your foot, kind of like your hand, it's sort of straight on one side, and then your toes taper off. So the fact that you have sort of this square in the middle that's evenly tapered isn't really how your foot's made. So you can change that. There's no knitting police, as the Yarn Harlot likes to say. So you can change this. And that's just by deciding how often you're going to increase and on which side you're going to increase. And then let's talk about increasing. If it's an increase, you can do it. So most sock patterns that I have seen, I've seen a knit front and back, and that's the increase, a KFB. But you can do a make one on each side, or wherever you decide to do an increase. You can do a make one left and a make one right, which sort of twists the stitch as you make it. Another that I've seen both in this book and in some of Megan of Stockinette Zombies patterns is where you do a yarn over and then knit through that yarn over on the next row. And there's two variations to that. If you simply do a yarn over on the odd numbered rows, let's say, and then knit through that yarn over on the even numbered rows, you're going to have holes. Well, if you have a lacy sock, having holes going up the toe might be a really neat design element. So that may be something you want to consider. If you don't want the holes in the sock, you just twist that yarn over. So as you're doing a yarn over on the odd rows, on the even rows, knit through the back of the yarn over. It'll twist that stitch and close up that hole. So there's different variations on that. Several of the socks in this book mention those and use those different variations. So looking at this book was one of the things that inspired me to talk about this toe design. So don't be scared next time that you have a sock to fiddle with the toe and see if there's another way for you to make the toe that you might like better. And if you find a really clever way, design a sock. Sell it on Ravelry. We'll love it and go buy it. That's how we are. That's how all of us knitters roll. So, toe designing for the novice. There you go. That may have been useful to you. I hope it was. Hopefully it was at least interesting to you. Let's go on to talk about fitness. So, I don't know if I've lost any weight this week, but my pants feel looser. So, yay! The two things I've done this week, I've continued to focus on movement. So, I walked a bunch at the airports, walked a bunch at the conferences. Like lots of travel. Some of it was at the airport. Not all of it was driving. It just felt like all of it was driving because I did drive so much. Because I was driving, I would stop every few hours and get out and walk around so that I wasn't just getting all stiff and everything. I tried not to eat junk food as I was driving. So I would get fruit or cheese or yogurt or things like that as I was driving, coffee and water. Again, still making sure I don't put sugar in my coffee. And now I don't even think about the fact that I don't. That's how I drink my coffee now. At work, the few days that I have been at work yesterday and today, walking to do things. So I had a meeting yesterday across campus. I walked over there and back. Post office, walked over there and back. So those are just some of the things that I've been doing just to increase daily movement. So even though I've not really been formally exercising, I've been doing a lot of moving and walking around. So at the conference, they had a sculpture garden outside. So I spent 10 minutes just walking around outside in the sculpture garden. It was fun, it was relaxing, and yet it got some movement in. Also, several of the meetings involved meals. So I made sure I chose a salad or something lighter than some of the heavier options that were available. And that made me feel better. It gave me more energy and allowed me to get through some of those meetings that, sometimes meetings are not the most interesting things in the world. Sometimes they are, but you have to do what you have to do to get through them. And not feeling like you're so sleepy because you just had a huge carb load was very helpful. And again, I think probably if I got on the scale, it wouldn't show any weight loss. But I just feel a little bit leaner. And my pants don't feel like they're cutting off the circulation right now. And so that makes me feel good. So more movement, more salads, more water. That's my continuing plan. In addition to that, I'm going to be looking for another 5K. This is something that my family and I want to do April, May. So I'm going to be looking for another 5K and signing up and doing another 5K sometime in the April, May timeframe. So if anybody knows of a 5K, either Memphis, North Mississippi, or even the Dallas area, I'm willing to travel out there with them since they're willing to travel over here to be with me and do it with me, or vice versa. So if anybody knows of any, like I said, either in the Dallas area or the Memphis, North Mississippi area, let me know and I will take a look. Well, that is it for the knitting and fitness. I have opened an Etsy shop. I mentioned that on the podcast last week. And I certainly have no intention of turning the podcast into an advertisement for my Etsy shop. But each week, if I do have an update that week, and I'm going to try to have updates most weeks. I'm not going to guarantee every week, but most weeks. I'm going to pick out just a few of my favorites to show you on the podcast, just so you kind of know what I'm up to. It's more me showing you what I'm up to than ad for the shop, though I would love it if you would go and buy. And I have had quite a few sales this week, and I just wanted to thank everyone who purchased something from me this week. Thank you so much. I hope you get them. I hope they are in good shape when you get them. I hope you enjoy them, and I hope they're everything that you expected. So let me show you a few. This first one is the last of my holiday stitch markers. Most of my Christmas stitch markers have already sold. This is a brand new one that I just put up today. Oops. And I just dropped one on the floor, so I will pick it up in a second. But it matches one of these, so I don't have to grab it in order to show you. And I'm calling this my Cookie Cutter Christmas. And as you can see, it's a little green kind of cookie cutter Christmas tree. But then it also has a silver cookie cutter Christmas tree and a silver snowman. And these are metal. in silver, obviously, with silver rings. The rings are small. They would fit a US 6, might fit a 7 or 8, but definitely would fit a 6. And so I don't want to say that they're going to fit something that they might not. So I'm going with a smaller size than what they may actually fit. There is another gingerbread. So you get 2 gingerbread men, 1 silver Christmas tree, and 1 green Christmas tree. The green Christmas tree is plastic, so it is very light. Because these are small, even though they're metal, they're still pretty light. So that's my Cookie Cutter Christmas. It's my first one I wanted to show off. Then Amy has been helping me with the shop and making creative suggestions that I think are really good, actually. And one of the things that she has always done the whole time I've known her, for all of the years I've known her, is she really likes picking on me about the fact that I am deathly afraid of frogs. I have a legitimate, completely unreasonable phobia of frogs. So she found some metal silver frogs. And she thought it would be hilarious for me, who is so scared of frogs. Can you see that one? To have frog stitch markers in my shop. So, I do think that they're kind of cute, because they're not very realistic looking in terms of being frogs. And so, I called it Frogget, because, you know, we all have frogged many things. So, there's some Frogget stitch markers. Then, these, I love pink. So anytime Amy saw pink beads, she grabbed them for me. The problem with these is that you can see here on camera that they are definitely pink with silver. The pictures that I took to put on Etsy, the metal looks gold. It's not, it's silver. And can you see, I'm trying to show you the pink. It looks like it's lit up from inside. And so I'm calling them the God particle. And there's 4 of them. And the reason I'm calling them the God particle is because it reminds me of that antimatter from Angels and Demons, the movie. And I just think that they are gorgeous. Now, these are meant for a bigger needle, and they are much heavier. So keep that in mind. These are not something you'd use on a sock project. However, I do have some that you would use on a sock project. So I'm going to wrap up by showing you these last 2. Very simple little stitch markers. They say create, believe, hope, and wish. And they have little seed bead accents. Again, the yellow and orange, blue and white. Silver rings. Again, the rings would fit a US 6 easily. These you definitely could use on a smaller project or a sock or fingering weight project. They are a little bit heavier than these last ones that I'm going to show you, which I'm calling Gossamer Wings. There's 5 of them in the set. I'm just going to show you one. Sorry, my computer went crazy. I'm just going to show you one, but they're identical, 5 of them. You get 5 in the set. They're teeny tiny little plastic butterflies with clear and red seed bead accents. These are so light because the butterfly looks metal, but it is not. It is plastic. The findings, of course, are metal. But since it is plastic, it is so light and delicate. These would be perfect for a sock project. And again, you get 5 of these in the set. So all different types of markers for all different types of projects. Go check them out. There's many more. I think I have 30 different sets up in the shop right now. So check them out if you're interested. And I hope you have a great week. I hope you have wonderful knitting, awesome holiday planning, and getting everything you need to get done wrapped up for the holidays. And then next week is the holidays. I'll still be recording next Friday as usual, and I'll see you then. Bye.